I should probably start this out by saying that I will not include any legendary weapons on this list. Why? I don't know. I also might include a few things that aren't weapons. So now then, on to the list. Back in Wrath of the Lich King, when warriors were given the ability Titan's Grip for the first time, it led to a lot of fun with two-handers that were never meant to be dual-wielded. Back in vanilla, there was an item that dropped from the Scarlet Monastery called the Ravager, which had a chance on hit to do a simulated Blade Storm ability. Only if you used it in your offhand, it would use your main hand for the AoE damage, allowing for some pretty high AoE since it procced pretty easily. The item is sadly no longer in the game though, but I have one on my warrior and I've always loved just going up and hitting things at Blade Storm like an idiot for 10 seconds. Have you ever found yourself doing boring melee DPS and wishing that there could just be more dragons in your rotation? Because that would be neat. The weapon, Dragonscall, kinda did something like that. It had a chance to summon a green whelp to fight for you, and you could have a total up to 3 out at a time, or 6 if you dual-wielded a pair. I don't think there's anything cooler than having a small army of whelps at your side, alleviating the boredom that is melee DPS. Although, the item was one of the few epic items that dropped from vanilla 5-man, so it was pretty hard to get a hold of. Number 8 on this list is an item you might want to keep away from any Japanese schoolgirls. Gurthalak, Voice of the Deeps, was a pretty neat weapon that could summon hentai tentacles to mind flay nearby targets, which was pretty cool because it also slowed the targets and did a buttload of damage, making it great for both raiding and PvP. There's also no cooldown on the number of tentacles that can be summoned, so you could theoretically have an army of tentacles flaying it up. Highly recommended item for all you weeaboos out there. Number 7 on this list is the Green Whelp Armor. This armor was a crafted leather armor that had a 20% chance to put melee attackers who hit you to sleep for like 12 seconds. Mind you, this was before diminishing returns. It was a level 30 item, yet it was BIS for PvP until level 60. Now, what's an armor piece doing on a top 10 weapons list? I don't know. I can do what I want. It's my list. If you don't like it, you can make your own. Number 6 on this list is the Blackblade of Shahram. Sharam. I think it's Sharam. This little sword has no stats and only a proc to summon Sharam, a flamewalker who would do one of 6 things: AoE slow enemies, AoE stun, give a group bloodlust, restore your group's health and mana, give a plus 50 all stats buff that's stacked, or do a flame strike AoE. Since the creature brought out by the proc looks like molten core trash, it would sometimes freak out stupid people into thinking they pulled extra ads. Probably, I don't know. I read that online. But do you think someone would just go online and tell lies? I don't think so. The item is no longer in-game, but if you have 2, you can Titan Grip dual-wield it for 2 procs for some PvP fun, because a AoE stun that lasts like 5 seconds is pretty good. Number 5 is the Black Bow of the Betrayer. Finally, a non-melee weapon on this list. Unless you count the armor item I listed a few spots back, then this is the second non-melee weapon on the list. This bow is pretty unique, and its chance on hit ability was essentially a Viper Sting. For all you hunters who started playing after Cataclysm and don't know what Viper Sting is, I do have a video about the history of Hunter Stings on my channel you could watch. Although it's one of my earlier videos, and might actually be the first history video I ever made, so it's kinda bad. I should really remake that video. Anyway, unlike Viper Sting, this bow just gave you mana and drained the same amount without the dot component, which was still pretty nice because mana was an issue back in the days before focus. It also looks super cool. Here's a drawing I made of it. Number 4 on this list is the Dark Edge of Insanity, one of the best axes in the game back in vanilla. This little guy not only looked cool, had the 3rd highest damage of an axe period, but also had a unique proc called Glimpse of Madness, which made your opponent wander aimlessly for a bit and didn't break on damage. If you went back in time and asked anyone in vanilla who could use a 2-handed axe which weapon they wanted the most in game, their answer would probably be the Dark Edge of Insanity. Number 3 on this list is the Silent Fang. This level 40 sword had a chance to silence for 5 seconds and was pretty popular among rogues for having no internal cooldown or diminishing returns. But come Wrath of the Lich King, Frost Death Knights could build around an Icy Touch only spam spec, rendering their weapon to a simple stat stick. When combined with 2 Silent Fangs, you had Death Knights who could perma-silence any caster who was unlucky enough to be the target of their Icy Touch spam. Number 2 on this list is the Judge's Gavel. This little weapon had a unique effect in vanilla that had a chance on hit to make your opponent invulnerable for 10 seconds. Kinda like a Warlock's Banish. What's so great about that, you say? Well, if you used it on a flag carrier in Warsong Gulch, it would cause them to drop the flag, since it treated the proc as if they had popped a pally bubble. The weapon was later changed to just a lame 3-second stun with a low chance to proc. And finally, number 1. The number 1 coolest chance on hit weapon was the Unstoppable Force. Not to be confused with the shitty trash drop, the Stoppable Force. This item was one of the few ways in the vanilla game to knock people back almost 20 yards, allowing you to do all kinds of crazy stuff, like getting over the AQ gates, into other zones, out of BG maps, and fun on the Alteric Valley Bridge. Basically, any of the fun things you can do with knockback, now you could do with the Unstoppable Force. It was nerfed pretty quickly though. Blizzard's just not a fan of game-breaking fun. There's also a similar item that kept its proc called the Earthshaker, but was nerfed to a normal knockdown, after the Unstoppable Force was nerfed to a simple stun. Funny enough, there's also a shield in the game called the Immovable Object. I wonder what would happen if you hit the Immovable Object with the Unstoppable Force. Probably the destruction of the universe, or something. And that's it for my top 10 chance on hit weapons list. I kinda want to do a list like this, but for player spells and trinkets, well, maybe sometime in the future.